My name is Catherine, and I'm presenting the sixth presenter. Roderick Stewart is in his second career, returning to his alma mater advising Mortarboard, Iron Key, a secret senior honorary and Old Masters annual program recognizing 10 of Purdue's most successful alumni organizations. In his former life, he was the Vice President of Global Treasury at Procter & Gamble, retiring after 30 years at the company. Beyond his honorary and club advising roles, his passions are leadership and career development, working with numerous students and staff and campus groups. He is speaking on, if you don't know where you are going, any road will get you there.
Good morning.
It's nice to meet you and talk with you this morning. What I'm going to talk about today is the broad area of strategy.
Excuse me, Roger, we're videoing and we need you over
okay.
there. I apologize we didn't
that's
mention
okay.
that.
Do I need to be right at the podium?
Right close there, yes.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll do it this way then. I want to talk today about the broad area of strategy. And the reason why I want to talk about that is I wanted to work with you and help you focus your organization so that it's a manageable year and you'll know when you're successful. Okay? Now, before I start talking the specifics here, I want to share two things about my previous life when I was in industry that explain why strategy and setting goals and agreeing where you're going are so important. And I will also tell you there is a very interesting thing that happened to me this morning that reminds me of how important it is to have an agreed mission or objective for your organization and goals on what you want to do. Now, my first example at Procter & Gamble is this. Many of you are too young to even remember this, but in 2000, in the United States or in the business world, .coms were the thing. You know, it was just the beginning. The NASDAQ was growing rapidly. And every firm was trying to just set unbelievable business goals and rapid growth. P&G was a $50 billion sales company at that point in time. And we had a new CEO who decided he was going to make a $50 billion company like a .com. So after growing successfully at 9% a year for about 75 years, this CEO decides we're going to grow at 15% per year. And so it was just havoc, crazy things, introducing brands, all sorts of unbelievable stuff, spending a lot of money on overhead. We managed to reduce the stock price by 50% by making that business decision. We were just crazy. We didn't know where we were going. One specific example is this. The CEO goes to Italy and he said, you've got two choices of new brands to introduce. The first one is Fit. Has anybody heard of Fit? Exhibit A. The second example is if you don't introduce Fit, you need to introduce Bounce. You know, the thing you put in your dryer. 50% of the women in Italy still dry their clothes on a line outside. So those were his two choices for growth. That's an example why the value of the business dropped by 50%. So for the first time in P&G's history, they fired a CEO, brought in a new young man, and he was probably not well prepared for the job yet. They had assumed he'd have 3 to 5 more years of business experience before he got the role, but they decided to take the risk with him. And the way I describe it is this. He turned the company back to a reasonable growth estimate, and he focused us. And the way I describe it is this. He said, fix Tide, fix China, fix Walmart. So in other words, don't focus on Fit in Italy, but focus on Tide, which is the #1 brand in the United States. Don't worry about growing the business in Bolivia. Grow it in China. And China today is now a $7 billion business for Procter & Gamble. Don't worry about that mom and pop store. Worry about Walmart. They have over 15% of our sales. get yourself focused. He turned the company around and the business grew. He groomed his own successor. His successor came in and decided his area of focus was in 40 different areas. And I sat in reviews and I said, tell me about your focus. And they said, well, we've narrowed it down to 40. I said, are you sure? Well, guess what happened? 18 months ago, for the second time in P&G's history, they let a CEO go. And they talked A.G. Lafley, who fixed the company in 2000, to come back and do the same thing again. Now, the reason why this is so emotional and of interest today is Procter & Gamble announced their earnings for fiscal year ending June 30th this morning at 8:30. And this CEO announced his new business plan for next year. In that, 10% of the brands are out of there. They're getting rid of them. And they're going to focus on 90% of the brands. P&G's stock today is up $3 a share, or 4%. Okay? I own a lot of P&G shares. I'm having a real good day. Okay? But the point is, you make more money and you're more successful if you know how to focus. Okay? Second thing in my history. I was responsible for the treasury function at P&G. I managed the cash. I managed the debt. I bought and sold foreign exchange. I had the insurance department, and I had the pension assets. I can tell you that almost every person who reported to me was technically more solid and smarter than I was. But the reason why I led the organization and the reason why I got to where I wanted to be in Procter & Gamble is this. I could set strategy and get the organization thinking to where it needed to be 3 to 5 years down the road. Now, when we're leading mortarboard chapters, we're not talking 3 to 5 years down the road, but we're talking a year. And what I want to try to get at today is for you to think out front like that, because I think getting that focus will give you a better year, make you a better leader, and make it a lot more fun and rewarding for your fellow mortarboard members. Okay? So that's why I want to talk about this today. One other thing about my past. I can remember one day we brought a new person into the staff. And a guy who had worked for me for a number of years and was one of my top people said to them, you need to know when you come to P&G Treasury that your job is to implement the brainstorm that Roger has in the CFO's office. But it ties to the fact of setting a long-term goal and wrapping the organization around change. At one point, I told my staff that I want you to go to meetings, national meetings in the area of Treasury. And if any firm is within a year of where we are in making change, you're behind. And that is my rallying cry. Think out front, set priorities, and look down the road. Most college students, I know I was there, long term is the week after next. But I'm challenging you to think about what you want your organization to have looked like and completed by the time May comes around and you go to commencement. Okay? Make sense? So that's why I made this comment. If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. Okay? And so I want to talk for this session on thinking about where you want to go. I would suggest, and this ties, you can use the SWOT analysis that Andy was sharing with you about a half hour ago as one of the methods to help you figure out what you want to do. First, what series of words can everyone agree upon about where you want to go? I think in mortarboard, that's really easy. It's job done. Scholarship, leadership, service. Make sense? Now, if you're in another organization, you may very well have to sit down and hammer that out and agree what your mission is, or your objective, or your vision. I use those words interchangeably. But I think it's done for us in mortarboard, and we would not be doing what we're supposed to be doing if we didn't focus on that area. Okay? You may want to talk that with your group just a little bit, make certain everyone can wrap their mind around it. But I would simply suggest for us in mortarboard, your mission, vision, or objective is done. Okay? Now, how do you know you've been successful? At first we talk words, okay? But how do you know that you have delivered on scholarship, leadership, and service? Okay? And I believe that is what your executive ex-coms and your organization ought to think about the first thing when you get back and talk with and agree to your goals for the year. They need to be measurable. I'm going to have 2 leadership events across campus. I'm going to award 1 or 2 scholarships. I'm going to do 1 or 2 service projects. What are those, and how do I know I'm going to be successful when I've done that? Okay? So now I want to ask you. Take volunteers. If I don't get volunteers, I'll pick on you like a faculty member. What does success look like for you, and are your goals for your mortarboard chapter this year? Who wants to go first? Central Michigan.
We need new advisors.
Okay. And so that is one of the things you want to do for the year.
One of them, yes.
Okay. What else?
Become more visible on campus.
How do you measure that?
Meaning what?
Being more visible. How will you know you're more visible?
People automatically knowing what mortarboard is.
Okay. How are you going to measure that?
Applicants.
Okay. All right. Okay, you.
Let's see. So I'm coming into a new advisor role, so I hope you get good.
Oh, I'm picking on an advisor. My
I
apologies.
know, yeah. I would say success would be really having an enthusiastic group who participates in events and then a great advisory team.
Okay. Nebraska.
I would just say our success would be, based on our participation and whether or not we can. One of the big things for us is winning homecoming and then putting on a big fundraising 5K jog. So if we win homecoming, that's pretty measurable, and then the amount of money we raise would be.
Fantastic. Good. Who at that next table? I can't see your T-shirts to pick on anybody. You're the one that spoke up. What does success look like for you?
Definitely our appearance on campus, and I guess that would also be measured by applicants, but we are also in need of an advisor. We have a lot of staff changes at our school right now, so that would be success. And I guess being more known with the national chapter as well, because we didn't have much communication with the national chapter, and so we're getting that a lot more now, and so that's becoming very positive for us already.
Okay. Ball State. Is Ball State at that table still? He heard I was speaking and decided to go, huh? Somebody else.
Well, more visual also, that will be measured by more people coming to our events, and also winning the Wilson Food chapter convention.
Okay. These are very good things. But what I would do is to challenge you and go back and be as specific as you possibly can. Get them in the area of scholarship, leadership, and service. Okay? And I think that would be a very worthwhile exercise to build from your SWOT analysis to set your goals. Okay? Now then, we talked words. Where's your vision? What describes mortarboard? Scholarship, leadership, service. We've talked about how you can measure when you have gotten there. And then the next point is to say, what is your strategy? What things are you going to do to deliver those goals? Okay? So, I need to get a new advisor. What are you going to do? What steps are you going to take to deliver those goals? Researching? Okay. I would suggest you go say, all right, where am I going to research? What are the alternatives for advisors, faculty, staff, alumni, graduate students? And then work through that and say, here are the areas I'm going to go contact to achieve that goal. Okay? And back to Southern Cal, right? Or which Trojans?
University.
My apologies. What steps do you want to take to be the most improved chapter? What are the things you want to do to get there?
First look at what we already did last year to see which areas are the lowest, and then build on that by doing more service activities, which are more recognized by the community, and then build on from there.
I like it. I like that a lot. Okay? I won't pick on the rest of you, but I would think through this way. It is a very powerful mechanism to managing an organization. What is your objective? What words describe you? How do you know you're going to get there? Or how do you know you've achieved your goal? One other thing we used to say in industry a lot, and they use it a lot on campus as well, is you get what you measure. Okay? So if you want to measure, if you decide you want to have 4 events, you'll have 4 events. If you want to say you want to have more events, you may be satisfied with 1 or 2. So the specificity around setting your goals, I think, will help drive you to be a better chapter. Okay? Does this make sense? How am I doing on time?
Good. Just under 2.
Okay. What I want to say on this too is the way you approach this will differ by chapter and will differ by the challenges that you have. And I had some examples of things at Purdue, and I won't go through that because people get sick and tired of hearing about the schools from which the speakers come from. But what I would share with you more broadly is this. One of the organizations that I manage is really complicated. It was shared with the Old Masters with 10 people, where we bring 10 people back to celebrate. We have a similar problem to what you talk about all the time, which is getting people fired up about Old Masters. But more importantly, what does Old Masters mean? Okay? So the central committee of that, we met one afternoon and spent a whole lot of time deciding what the key things we were trying to do for the year. And one was to celebrate Purdue's past, the other was to recognize key alums, and the third was to inspire growth of the students. And what I talked the students into doing coming out of that is, that became their objective. But building on that objective is the exercise then I had them do is write your elevator speech. Someone sees you on campus and says, what is Old Masters about? You ought to be able to click off and say, we bring back 10 very successful Purdue alumni each year to honor them. They are on campus 3 days. The point is for them to have a lot of fun, for it to be low-key, and to get them in front of the students, to inspire the students to more successful experiences on campus and when they graduate. You need to be able to do that. It's about focus, and it's about being able to put your objective in words. Okay? I work with another group that typically does a bricks and mortar project as a contribution to the school. Their first charter is to decide what do they want to accomplish by this project. Is there one of the classes wanted to celebrate Purdue's ROTC organizations. And they decided on that, and that was their objective in defining the project. But they spent hours and hours deciding what the objective was. Then they set out their goals. There will be a monument that recognizes all 5 of the services that have ROTC on campus. Okay? If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. And think through what success looks like for you. And I would suggest if your ex-com does that, you're going to have a whole lot more successful and, frankly, a lot more fun and rewarding experience. Thank you for your time. If anybody wants to talk to me at any of the breaks, I'd be happy to. Take care.